Hello. You are listening to Worst Take. I'm Stephen A. Smith. I'm here with Hugh Jackson. Hugh, what do you got to say?
It's not my fault this podcast didn't come out earlier this week.
Now that's an outright fucking lie. That is an outright lie.
You asked me a question, Stephen A. No Smith. I'm just answering it. I came prepared, and I was ready, and the buttons weren't to hit. I'm one of the best podcasters of all freaking time. Just ask me. I'll tell you.
What you got to get back to
Good
doing
evening.
is just doing good podcasts like you've always done, right?
Right. And once I get back to doing great podcasting like I've already done, the world will know that it's always been for me to be the best of who I am and what I am, and the rest of the people are just lucky. I told Zach years ago that we should be on bigger platforms, we should be in better places, and he has not taken advantage of the things that I tried to give him. Hell, I brought in iTunes and told him iTunes will be the people that will make us sound the best. But lo and behold, he keeps Skyping away and keep hitting the wrong buttons, and we keep losing. So what do you do when that's your situation?
I give you credit. I'm tired of your shit, but that was pretty good. I gotta say.
Why do people watch that? What is wrong with you guys? You guys watched all those press conferences, and all I heard was people bitch, and talk about how he runs people over backwards and forwards. You guys, and no offense to beating wives or people that have been in that situation, and I shouldn't use that term, but you guys act like people, like you keep going back to the same place thinking you're going to get something different. He didn't do that for y'all. He didn't do that. He did that to cover Hugh's ass. And y'all ran to it just like the puppy dogs you are, and are all over Twitter and going all crazy about it. Ignore that fool. He's ignoring you. He's got notes up there so he can make sure he says the right thing so he can keep collecting money from the Haslams. Just like every other coach that's coached in Cleveland. What a week for coaches in Cleveland. Good Lord. Welcome to the program. I'm going to do my best to have good language. You know how that works. He's Zach Jackson. I'm Andre Knott. He usually says, well, good morning. And I say, well, good evening. But I'll start with how your day is.
My actual favorite part was at the end when he said what happens next in his coaching career is up to God. And, you know, a lot of people believe that in a lot of regards. But Greg Williams believes it's up to him because he gets offered a head coaching job every year and he turns it down.
Every day. It's funny that I didn't even watch it. I went out of my way, and my dad and AJ hung out. We avoided it. We had a chance to watch it. My dad looked at me and goes, are we really going to do this? And I said, hell no. Didn't he, when he was cutting players on the Hard Knocks, didn't he say it's God's plan? And then too, right?
Yes.
I don't want to get into religion, and I don't want to tell anybody about their religions. But I got to tell you, if God's plan is for him to be a head coach again, I don't want to be a part of that religion. I had to think about how I wanted to say that.
I got to tell you, my grandfather is 96 years old, and he's got more and better go-to lines than Hugh does. Hugh's are bad, and there's only like 3 of them. So whatever. Hey, listen.
We just got to. Yeah, I'm walking.
Let's
I'm done
not
with
go
it.
moratorium.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, listen. Moratorium's not the right word. Like, let's just be done talking about Hugh Jackson. Like, you're fined $1.
There's nothing to talk about.
Right.
I'm with it. I'm with it. There's nothing to talk about. He is what he is. I still say the ownership is as bad as he is as a head coach, and until they get out of the way, the problems will exist. I think that's pretty simple to say going forward. I don't think we have to say very much more. Was he put in a perfect situation? No, but he walked into it knowing that he wasn't walking in a perfect situation. That's the only thing, and I don't know if Screaming A. Smith did that or not. And you may know better than I do because I really did not pay attention to it. Obviously you turn on the radio, or if you listen to, the radio shows, or you listen to Twitter. But did anyone even get to that point of saying, Hugh, you knew you were going to a bad situation? But that's the other thing. It's like if you go to date some 300-pound girl, and you tell me 3 weeks in, Dre, she's eating me out of a house and home. I'm going to look at you and say, well Zach, did you look at her before you went on the first date? That's what she do.
Come up with this shit.
Wait till we truly do the unfiltered A to Z podcast where people will know why I said that. Hey, speaking of us unfiltered, next Saturday night, and then we can go to wherever you want to go. Maybe Ty Lewis show up. He ain't got nothing to do. The Rec to Connect Foundation presents its 4th annual celebrity bartending event. It's even sponsored now. This thing is becoming big time. It's got more sponsors than our podcast does. I got to get with my wife and get them to help us out. The 4th annual celebrity bartending event sponsored by Beyond Words Music and Dance Center and State Optical is next Saturday night, November 10th from 6 to 9 at the Barley House. Tickets are $45 pre-sale on Eventbrite, $55 at the door. That includes drinks and heavy apps during the event. That's appetizers. If you want to bring your new girlfriend to the event, Zach, and you want to feed her since you can't afford her, that's fine, and we won't ask you why you're going through those issues. We also have Panera providing food now as well. They've joined in the last few days. They're going to be they're going to help out. They're going to bring some desserts. They're going to bring some foods as well. Panera, I know all you white people love it. I know my wife's got me loving it, and sometimes I see Zach there in sweatpants as well. Celebrity bartenders, and I'm listing them, and some of them are in alphabetical order, some aren't, and some aren't celebrities, to be completely honest, but that's just how we name them. My man Andy Baskin, Mark Munch Bishop, Gerard Cherry, Ashley Collins, Dustin Fox may or may not be there. I got to confirm with them. Jimmy Hanlon. Zach Jackson probably won't show up, but I'm going to keep his name on there because I like embarrassing him. Betsy Kling, some guy named Andre Knott, Jensen Lewis, Billy Morris will be there, and he will sing, and his food truck will be outside, so there'll be more great food, and his food is excellent from his food truck. You actually can win a chance to get his food truck to come to your house, to come to your party and feed your party. That'll be a cool thing that'll be out there as well. Mark Nolan, Jim Rosenhaus, Sarah Shookman will be serving drinks at 6 o'clock next Saturday at the Barley House in that beautiful, pretty little haircut that she has. She will be there ready to go. My man Ricky Smith, John Tellich, Matt Underwood. And there's a chance that I've got two others that there's a good chance I got two other big names coming. One of them is probably the best quarterback the Browns have ever had in most of your lives. There's a good chance that number 19 could show up. We've got all kinds of stuff for silent auction. You're going to actually go about the silent auction. It's going to start tomorrow on getting I talked about the LASIK eye surgery that they're giving up. There's going to be some cool stuff that's going to be given. We've got all kinds of Indians player stuff. We've got tickets to Indians games, Browns games, Cavs games, just a lot of cool stuff that you want to be a part of. They've partnered with the Cleveland Indians, Fox Sports, the Akron Rubber Ducks to provide over 500 tickets to baseball games. There's just been a ton of things that they've done with the foundation that's been great. And all of this money goes to providing scholarships for recreation programs, for family recreation events, and they try to get recreation classes for individuals with special needs. If you're a parent, you know how expensive it is to parent. Just imagine how tough it is and how difficult it is to be a parent and try to get recreation taken care of for a kid with special needs. It's difficult. It's tough. Shout out to Alex Moneypenny. Saw him earlier this week. He gave a great gift that you're going to be able to see, that you're going to be able to tour a bourbon. Like, there's just the stuff that's out there is unbelievable. So make sure you go to RecToConnectFoundation.com, or you can go to my Twitter account. You can go to our Facebook page, the A to Z Facebook page, if you want to get tickets or you want to know more about the annual event. It's a really cool event. You have a lot of fun, a lot of cool people to talk to. Some of the people that I know that there's a lot of cool people that are coming. There's a chance that an Indians player will be there as well. It's fun. It really is. It's a lot of work. Trust me, I've been putting a lot of work to get this all together, but it's well worth it because we're trying to help people that can use the help, to be completely honest. We've got some sponsors. We just got some other cool things that are going to come up in the next week that you'll find out about. And with Christmas right around the corner, like we're going to have a silent auction for a snowblower that's probably worth about $5,000. Good time to start buying Christmas gifts as well if you're looking and thinking about stuff like that. All right, let's talk about
well, I have a question. Mr. Knott, I have a question.
Okay.
Why
do you what do you got, sir?
Why do you waste your time with baseball and crappy radio when you could have weekends off and be a big shot at any advertising agency in America when you come up with lines like Panera? You white people love it.
They do. I go there all the time. I'm the only brother there every time, whether it's Wadsworth, whether it's Kent, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's Rockside Road. Brothers and sisters don't go there, son. I only see white people in yoga pants. I love it, though. The bread is great.
I mean, great slogans of our time. McDonald's, I'm loving it. Nike, just do it. Panera, you white people love it.
Hey, man. Truth to truth. So, you been checking out those Cavaliers?
I need a minute.
Oh, what has happened in Cleveland, man?
Time out. An old A to Z favorite, time out.
Time out, yes.
Let's reset. We've gone 10 minutes. We're going to reset here. This is the A to Z podcast. I'm Zach Jackson. He's Andre Knott. Facebook.com/A to Z podcast. A to Z podcast.com. Panera does not sponsor us, but the Honeymoon Grill, Cleveland Scene, and American Fireworks do.
A lot of white people go to Honeymoon Grill too.
They do. We are at Akron Jackson and at Dre Knott on Twitter and on Instagram. If you listen to the show, you know we are also hashtag Team Natalie. It's been quite a week for the Browns. It's been quite a season for the Cavaliers. Since we last talked, October turned into November. It rained biblically in Northeast Ohio for about 2.5 days. Greg Williams is the coach of the Browns. Patrick Mahomes is coming to town. The Buckeyes are getting back to work. You know, that's an interesting game tomorrow, Dre. It really is. Because Nebraska stinks, but they're playing better, and they've got nothing to lose. And the Buckeyes were last seen embarrassing themselves, then had a bye week. And this is a team at a crossroads that clearly wasn't going the right direction, but still has everything to play for. Big Ten title, of course, beating Michigan, possibly making the playoff. They lost their best player, Joey Bosa. He had to do what he had to do. Other guys probably thinking about other things. The pieces are there. The offense hasn't worked. So I think it's a noon game. And to me, it's going to be, I don't know, fast. When you're playing Nebraska, as Nebraska is now fascinating, probably is a little too strong. But it's certainly a game I want to make sure that I see.
Yeah, they're blacking it out. It's the first blackout game that they're going to have, and I remember all of us were going crazy about them wearing black jerseys, and it kind of tells you where the program is at, but a noon game is a blackout game, and I know the uniform doesn't play into it. And they needed this week off, and we've had news about Urban and what's going on with them health-wise, and it's hard for – I don't ever want to be cynical, but I think it's easy to be cynical and go, well, this is a good way for him to grease his way out if this is his last year. And I know you were pretty good at this. You said this pretty well the last time we talked about the Buckeyes after that loss that they had against Purdue. They needed to I think they needed to re-identify who they are and what they are as a team, and re-identify, whether it be getting the running game, whether it changes the offensive line a little bit. They've got a quarterback that can throw the ball, but and I guess we always had these JT Barrett conversations about his importance and how good or bad he was and how he wouldn't play on Sundays. I was correct there, but I think the one thing that you always hit on was the leadership and his ability to get 4 or 5 yards a run. They missed that element of their offense, and that element of their offense has been really a part of their offense since Urban Meyer became head coach at Ohio State. Even when you had Cardell for a minute, they were able to run the football because they had one of the best running backs the school has seen in the last 40 years, and that's saying a lot when they had Zeke. And they've got great running back prospects now. I just think the offensive line plays on their back heels too much. I think any great offensive line, I don't care how much you're in the shotgun, has to be able to play going forward before you can call them great one way or the other. And I think that's an issue that they deal with right now. They've got a lot of their linemen go backwards more than they go forward, and that becomes a problem in the run game. I just think they have to find an identity. I don't have a problem with their quarterback, but they have to find a way to become more balanced offensively. Defensively, it's one of the worst secondaries I've seen the Buckeyes ever have. And their linebacking core is so slow. It just doesn't look like an Ohio State defense to me so far. So, yes, you're right. Very important games going forward. You still have the Michigan game. Hell, you still have a chance to win out. You can play in the Final Four. I don't want the team that I've seen the last 3 weeks play in the Final Four, but maybe they can change my mind over the next 4 weeks. And don't, before we get done talking college football, I'm excited for LSU, Alabama, even though I don't think LSU can beat them. I think Alabama's actually going to play a 4-quarter game finally.
I agree. Thought on the playoff. I completely agree with what you said. The way they've played right now, they want no business. And I heard Daniel Jeremiah say this week that Texas should secretly be pleased with laying an egg last week against Oklahoma State because they want no part of Alabama. But the way college football is shaken out, Dre, it's Alabama and then a step to Clemson and to Ohio State and to Georgia, and then it's everybody else. So if we could get those 4 teams in the playoff, and that would mean that Ohio State got it together and won out and beat Michigan and started playing better, because frankly they're not going to beat Michigan the way they've played the last 3 or 4 weeks, then it would be good. And I agree. And this also, the other point, which extends to the Browns a little bit, sometimes running the ball is just deciding that you're going to run it. And it is. It's the offensive line getting forward. It's the mentality. And it's saying, okay, if you stuff us 3 times, we're still coming on the 4th. And they haven't been that team. And they've gotten away with it because Haskins made so many great throws. And, they know that that Weber and Dobbins have the talent, that Weber, demoralizes defenses and Dobbins can make anybody miss. But they haven't committed to making that work, and maybe they'll do that. against a pretty bad Nebraska defense. I mean, the total in that game,
Yeah.
even though it's been terrible weather in Ohio all week, the total in that game is almost 75 points. So they are expecting.
What?
Yes, they are expecting
Wow.
some fireworks in Columbus. And I'm glad you brought this up because I know this is going to be a shorter podcast today, and we do apologize for not being able to do this until Friday afternoon. It ain't my fault. Question for you, Andre.
That's gonna be our new thing. It ain't my fault. Did you do that?
Question for you. And this applies this year to Matt Campbell and to Lincoln Riley, probably to no one else. In other years, it could apply. But if you were in those guys' shoes, if you were a hotshot young coach, not ready to make a move because we don't know that either one of them is, but in demand, right, and ready to take interviews and ready to explore your options to make a life-changing amount of money to get a job at absolutely the top of your field, to go on to bigger and brighter and play with the biggest boys. As we said, Ohio State is a big boy program. In the NFL, there's 30 big boy teams, and then there's the Browns and the Raiders. But the Browns are getting back to
and
that.
Detroit. It's 29. Detroit's up there, too.
So,
Matt Patricia, you can kiss people's ass trying to tell people not to slouch. Look at your stomach. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you were Matt Campbell, and let's just leave it at him because he's the great example because he turns 39 years old in a few weeks. He's from here. He has Ohio ties. He has ties to Urban Meyer and to Ohio State staff. If you were Matt Campbell and you had the choice this December or January to take the Ohio State job or the Cleveland Browns job, which one would you take?
That's easy. That's easy, Z. Because I was going to ask you.
I'm interested.
It's easy for me because the one thing I was going to, as I heard you say this, and I love the setup of this question. What's the pinnacle? The pinnacle or the top is different for all of us, and I think a lot of us think those 29 jobs in the NFL or 32 jobs in the NFL are the head of the class. But I think with some universities, if you can be to me, like if you're Lincoln. Dude, if you can win at Oklahoma and be that head coach for 15, 20 years, I think you have a better chance of longevity, respect, and dealing with less BS. It's a different type of BS, obviously, on a big-time college football setting, campus, like Oklahoma. Off the top of my head, I can think of the two biggest names of Oklahoma's coaching history. You can't say anything bad about Barry Switzer. Barry Switzer went to the Cowboys, and all of his extra stuff got put on blast. I'm just thinking out loud. Butch Davis, he did some dirty stuff down in Miami, but, man, he kept that program going. And you get exposed on the highest level more so. Like, even when Ohio State loses one or two games, because of the cachet that Urban has, hell, look what he went through in the beginning of this year. My answer would be, right now, how things are, I would take the Ohio State job 9 times out of 10 over the Cleveland Browns job. It's a great question, and I think in certain other NFL cities, maybe I would think differently, but probably not. When you think of our longest tenured NFL coaches, Marvin Lewis, Bill Belichick, and we shouldn't even count Marvin Lewis because they don't do things like normal places down in Cincinnati. Andy Reid has been around forever, but he even got fired, but he fell into the perfect place going to Kansas City. I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I love that you asked this. I would say the Buckeyes right now, personally, because I think if you can continue what's been built already, you can have that job for 15, 20 years as long as your coaches keep their noses clean, and as long as you don't have a tremendous scandal. And even if you win enough on most of these campuses, if you win enough and you come off as a good guy for the most part, they'll still find a way to keep you on campus if you win 11, 12 games every year. Nick Saban, that's just me. I think that being the Saturday guy, being a top 5 college coach, to me is better than being a bottom 25 NFL coach, a bottom 20 NFL coach.
Okay.
How about that?
I'm not going to argue with you here, and I'm not going to offer my opinion because I want to do it this way. I'm just going to cross-examine you on this a little bit, okay? That's a fancy word, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, go for it.
I like what you said.
You didn't learn that word. I taught you that word.
My first point would be this. Sure, Coach Campbell, I understand that, and it's probably 110 miles from your childhood home to Columbus, and you went there with your dad and your brother, and you came up through the ranks of Mount Union, BG, and Toledo, all places that have their own football traditions, but all places where people scurry to watch the Buckeyes before anything else, right? And you're right. I mean, the Browns has not been a good job, and nobody's been stable. But what about the thought that nobody ever takes any coaching job thinking they're going to fail? Like, what about you can be the one to fix the Browns, and you can make all this money, and they will fucking build statues for you if you go 7-9?
Yeah, but you got to really question yourself and think about how difficult it is to get there and why no one else has been able to. I always tell people, I was just talking to a kid that's going to college down at Virginia Tech, and he wants to do what I want to do. And I always say, you got to be your biggest fan, but you also have to be smart enough to keep it real with yourself. And somehow Instagram came up with this college kid, and I love him, and I won't say his name. And he's like, yeah, man, in my fraternity, we were all, one of my buddies was talking about, if you put a picture up on Instagram, why should you not like it? It's obviously you. And I go, well, hold on. I go, you obviously like the picture if you already put it up there. I go, when you like it, that's the equivalent of the lion or the dog that licks his balls. He's only doing it because he can. Nobody wants to get caught licking their own balls, I don't think. I go, you never want to be that full of yourself. That's the advice you get from Andre Knott when you ask it. But you got to have confidence in yourself, but you don't want to be – but honestly – so I think if you're Matt Campbell, you got to say, okay, yeah, this is great, but why does it not work for anyone else? Go through the standards of why does it constantly, the issues that keep coming up, why is the dysfunction? Hell, even Greg with 2 G's said dysfunction is a problem with the Cleveland Browns the first time he talked. If you're Matt, you have to, if you're any coach, you have to ask yourself before you take all that money, before you think about the statues, before you think if I can just get this team to 8-8, why has this organization had these issues since 99? And if a lot of those issues still persist or still look like they may not go away, you got to be real with yourself and say, no matter how great I am as a coach, I don't know if I want to be that guy just yet.
Okay.
Especially if you have other opportunities at it. See, there's a difference between having no other opportunities but having multiple opportunities. And the guys we're speaking of, and Zach, we do this every 2 years. The guys we speak of on the highest level have other choices. It's not like it's like the Browns or die. It's usually I've got 3 other choices and I'm going to go with those, and that's how you end up with Hugh Jackson.
Well, you mentioned Instagram. So you're so convinced that you want Ohio State over the Browns. I mean, you want to spend the next X amount of years, maybe 30 years of your life, chasing around 15 and 16-year-olds so you can be nice to them and kiss their ass and pretend to care about their parents and what they're into so they can put you on Instagram and maybe you make their list of final 8. You want to work 7 days a week, 11 weeks a year. Even on your bye weekend, you want to get on a plane and go to some high school game in dirty-ass Ohio, Iowa, Pennsylvania somewhere to recruit these kids. And when you do get them, you want them to commit to you and you being the spotlight guy on the face of the program and national championship or bust, but somebody's girlfriend breaks up with them and they spend the week pouting about that. You really want that?
It's all relative, my man. And shout out to our listeners in Iowa. He means no harm against that. I would come recruit you there. Would you rather deal with professional adults with millions of dollars that act like the 15-year-old jackasses that you had to recruit before you got there? It's all relative. Do you want to deal with billionaires and trying to tell you what to do where you're trying to get millionaires to listen to you and actually give a shit and care about what you're trying to make a program into? That's how I would counteract that question.
I would rather on Wednesday night, when I've already worked 65 hours for the week, have to go 30 minutes to do a terrible interview with Ken Carman and sign 14 autographs, than have to sit awake at night and have my own phone to text message 16-year-olds and beg for their attention and affection.
How many head coaches? Look, man, I don't want to do either. I don't want to kiss another man's ass. I don't want to have to deal with a man that has 2 girlfriends and a wife at one game. I don't have to deal with guys that I don't have to deal with adult men who still don't know how to put a checkbook together and still don't know how to clean their own clothes. You're still dealing with immature. That's the one thing, the blessing I have in my jobs that I've had. And I always say this, Terry Francona is the biggest teenager I've ever met in my life, but he's the perfect person to lead other little boys. Because it's not like everything you're saying, I get. It's a pain in the ass. It's part of the job. But you deal with the same crap on a different level with pros. and you're supposed to be professionals. And, okay, on Wednesday night, I'm not texting and Instagramming some 15, 16, 17-year-old begging him to come to my university. And, by the way, you don't really have to beg if you're good enough and if you win enough games. It kind of does everything for you.
Au contraire.
Yeah, yes and no. Come on. Do you think Urban Meyer ain't never begged for nothing? Look at it. Urban Meyer don't beg for nothing for nobody.
And Urban Meyer quit a job until Abe Elam's brother decommitted and Urban came back.
That wasn't begging. That's negotiating, son.
I mean, these are facts.
But would you rather have to tell some owner why you ran a certain play 15 times? And look, I know, and you haven't even talked about the dirtiest part of college coaching to me. And that's the boosters. See, I don't think it's that hard dealing with, I think the guys, and I can say this from being recruited and know it, like the recruiting coordinator, Todd Murgatroyd, was the guy that recruited me, Jose Davis, all of us to Kent State. I think he's down at Denison now. I'm still in contact with him 23 years later. He was just a great communicator. He was great. And Tony Alford was my running back coach at Kent State. He helped recruit me. He's a running back coach at Ohio State. I don't want to speak for either one of them. But most of the guys I dealt with during recruitment, I can tell you, I can remember all the acronyms. I can tell you about all the coaches that used to call me, and I talked to the most. And I'm sure some nights it was a pain in the ass for them. But all those guys I dealt with, Zach, and you know this because you have a ton of friends that are high school coaches. There are people that are set up to deal with the immature. There's a certain breed of person, just like there's great school teachers, there's great police officers, there's great people that work with kids with special needs because that's their God-given talent. I think there's certain guys that are born to recruit and help bring along young kids. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
That does make sense.
The way you're saying it sounds like a pain in the ass. But I would say the good ones, the ones that are really good at recruiting and dealing with kids, they were born to do it, and they don't see it as a chore.
Okay, last one here. So you've made a pretty compelling case, and you've been anti-Browns against it, and Ohio State is part of that. But Ohio State or the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is there any more thought, or are you still taking Ohio State?
I would think about it a little bit, but I would still I think the college game, and I think dealing with kids a little bit, because the one other carrot that you hold on the college level that you don't hold at the pro level is playing time for those kids trying to get to the next level. So they'll listen to you a little bit more because you have that caveat of, you don't want to listen, I won't play you. On the pros, once they start getting paid, it takes a special type of team and a special type of group of people to put them together and actually give a shit about what the head coach is talking about.
Okay, fair enough.
Matt Campbell, keep your ass coaching on Saturdays. They'll love you a lot longer, brother. Please believe it. Wait a little bit longer, son.
Son.
Okay. Son to me, I'm 40. I'm a man.
We got about 3.5 minutes left as we record this on Friday afternoon. In the last hour, the Cleveland Cavaliers have put out two statements, one announcing surgery for Kevin Love, the other a response to a lawsuit for age discrimination. Congrats to the Cavs. Things are going really well over there. You mentioned LSU Bama.
Try it for Zion.
You mentioned LSU Bama. I'm here for it. Sunday, just quick prediction. I think the Browns will play inspired. I think eventually it won't matter. I got the Chiefs by 14 or more. What say you?
Pain! Yeah, I think you're right. They'll play well early, and then they'll just realize they don't have a chance in hell to slow that offense
down.
So, and there's nothing wrong with saying that, because there ain't many teams in America that can slow down the trio that they have set up the way they're set up. If I'm the Browns, I pray for rain, but it sounds like the weather's going to be decent.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, unless it turns out like it was in the first game where we just got blanketed that morning, they take such good care of that field, and the tarp is on it almost all the time.
Right.
Like it would only be an issue if you have like hurricane-like conditions that day, and we had those on Thursday afternoon. But at least where I've been today, Dre, it's barely rained at all. Now things are still soaked as I look out the window right now, but that won't be the case with the field. So we'll see. I know there's still some lingering rain in the forecast, and at this time of year, I mean, it's turning winter, so it kind of is what it is. Right. Again, next Saturday, Barley House, downtown Cleveland, is the Rec to Connect Foundation event. We will post the details again at facebook.com/A to Z podcast. Hope you come out and join us. Have a good time. I have 2 prior commitments that night, but I am trying to get out of both of them. to be there because, I'm not allowed behind the bar because I'm useless. I can't fit behind the bar because of Jensen Lewis's chest. But I would like to be there, seeing everybody. We've had some good times over. Gosh, I mean, we've been to what, 4? Is this the 4th or 5th one?
This is the 4th.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's always a good time, and we will remind you guys of that. On the next edition, we'll play some Glory Days. I still haven't told my story from what I did last Friday because of the Hugh Jackson stuff, and we're out of time today. But hey, we like doing this.
I'm surprised you fit in that.
Oh, jeez. All right, I'm tired of your shit.
It wasn't your fault.
I am tired of your shit.
I love you too.
Thank you for listening
Matt
to the A to
Campbell,
Occasionally Z podcast.
Stay in college. Stay in college. Stay in college. Lincoln Riley. Enjoy that campus. The other thing I didn't mention about that job, and I'll walk away on this, konnichiwa on being on a big-time campus and looking at the true talent that's always there, always the same age. It'll keep you young, kids. Stay on your college campus as long as you can. Konnichiwa from Wadsworth.
2 dirty old men signing off. See you next time on A to Z.